Yo, good evening. It is me, Ryan Hartley, from Always Better Than Yesterday, here for episode 62. Episode 62 of the Always Better Than Yesterday interview sessions. Me just send a couple of invites. Hope that we're well. Hope you've had a good weekend. I hope that we are well. This evening, I am really looking forward to bringing on my guest Athena, but before I do that, I just get as many people involved in the conversation as I can. If you're new to the Always Better Than Yesterday interview sessions, let me just say thank you for taking the time out to spend it with us. This is a space where hopefully you'll get to hear something that will help you be always better than yesterday in your own life, whether that be a little tip trick, mindset tip trick, or just simply the inspiration to go and do something different. A few invites going out now. Hopefully you can hear me loud and clear. Drop me a comment, let me know if there's any issues with the audio, and I shall get started very, very shortly. Thank you for taking the time to catch up on replay, the podcast, YouTube. Always love to know where you're watching and listening from, so do just drop a comment, let me know where you're coming from, and ask your curious questions as we go. Also, the one thing I will say is if you can see my headphones, they are a little bit... What happened is I had a pen explosion in my pocket. So hopefully they're working okay and you can hear me loud and clear. But yeah, I had a pen explosion. So, okay, my guest is here, ready to go. Let's bring her on. Lots of people joining. Good to see you guys. Good evening.
Hello, Ryan.
How are you? You well?
I'm great. Yeah, this is wonderful to be with you. I was just listening to you, what you were saying about your pen explosion, and then I appeared. So
I had a pen explosion, and that's why my headphones are covered in ink.
oh my goodness.
But the show must go on, right?
Indeed. Can you hear me okay? And am I visible okay? Yeah.
Loud and clear, loud and clear.
Okay.
So, do me the honour and the privilege of introducing your good self, and let's get to know you a bit better and share a bit of your story.
Okay. Well, I'm Athena Melchizedek Sananda. That's quite a mouthful. And those names actually represent the energies that I hold. And maybe we can speak a little bit more about that later on. But so it's not the name I was born with. They're the energies that I have vowed to embrace and bring through to the world.
Wow.
And so what I'm doing, maybe I should tell you what I do first of all.
Sure.
I'm not sure that you're even totally clear on that. So I'm all about activating, empowering and supporting leaders, change makers, CEOs, professionals, entrepreneurs, fempreneurs, and particularly fempreneurs because I am one, you know. So these are guys who are stressed, burned out, overwhelmed, confused. They're looking at a world that they don't understand. There's a lot of turbulence and chaos out there, as we all know. And so these are guys that have a deep, deep knowing inside of themselves that they're here to do something amazing. They know, they can feel it in their bodies. They know that they're here to do something amazing and wonderful to help themselves, their lives, and their businesses, and the world. But they don't know really how to go about doing that. There's lots of things holding them back. There's just confusion because the old structures aren't working, their old structures aren't working. And the new structures haven't yet happened. The new structures haven't yet been created
Yep.
for these guys to step into. And what they don't realize is that they are here to create those structures. Just like you, Ryan, just like you, just like what you're doing with, leading with love. That's what I mentioned this to you before, and I want to mention this again because of the viewers. This guy is the first guy I have met at a networking event who mentioned the word love out there in business land. So I salute you. I salute you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I am honored to be here with you and with your viewers. So, yeah, so those are the people I'm here to serve, the people that have this longing but don't quite know. And all the stuff that holds them back from really stepping out into their great mission and their great beings. All the stuff, the conditioning, the mindset, this word mindset is so frivolously used, and yet it is such an important piece of this whole thing that we're going to be talking about. And I know you know that because you're doing this work too. So really, I'm helping people come into their greatness, like I have, just like I have through my journey. That's what I'm doing. I can speak to the kind of results that I don't know whether that we want to go into that at this stage, but maybe why not? Can we do the kind of results that people can expect from this work? First of all, radical well-being. That's good health, really wonderful health, great energy, emotional stability, mental clarity, great relationships, totally unbound creativity, i.e. ideas just pouring forth, pouring through, non-stop. Purpose starts emerging. Their true purpose starts to emerge. When this stuff's cleared out, the way they're able to express in a way that they weren't able to before. They have clear perception and vision. And this is one of the key pieces, because when so many of us are looking at the world through the lens of the past, and we perceive through what we've been conditioned to believe. You know all about this, and I know all about this, and I'll tell you how. But everyone is perceiving their reality through their own conditioning, not actually the way it is. So they get clear vision, clear perception. And the most wonderful thing that eventually happens is that there is a direct knowing of who you truly are. A complete experiential, a knowingness, a feeling, of beingness of who you truly are. This is not something that you learn at university. It's not something you learn on a course. It's not something you learn from a book. This is an experience of who you truly are. And when you have this experience, it is actually mind-blowing. It blows the mind so that old mind no longer is able to, the old conditioned mind can no longer exist. It no longer runs the show. And what is running the show is who you truly are, which is you are a magnificent co-creator with source energy. Simple as that. I use the word source because if I use the word God, I'll have all sorts of people down on my head, which I don't really care about that much. But source to me, I'm used to speaking about energy and working with energy. And this is, we spoke a little bit about this ourselves, but in the other conversation, the energy that attracts people to each other, the energy that creates resonance, the energy that actually creates all that's manifested in the world. So this is part of what I'm about to. This is how I do certain things. So I can now go into your question. That after we've gotten through that bit, I can now tell you a little bit about my story.
Yeah, please.
It's a long story because I'm an old biddy. You know, I'm nearly 70 years old. I'm 2 years away from 70. I have my 68th birthday this year.
Amazing.
But I started, I started my business life at the age of 17. You know, that's a long time. It's a long time. Prior to being 17, I probably just need to mention, when I was very little girl, I was about 7 years old. I had certain gifts that to me were just normal. It was just normal. And I had an amazing father who was talking to me. This is like in the 1950s. I mean, you know, you weren't even born, you know. My father was speaking to me about energy and vibrations and frequencies and spiritualism and mediums and all sorts of what might be considered wacky stuff. But to me, it was completely normal. So he was a healer, but he wasn't a practicing healer. He was actually a telecommunications engineer. And he was I adored him. And I would sit on his knee and I would be just soaking this stuff in because it was all meaningful to me at this age. Absolutely. It was so amazing. And to feel his energy, which was so gorgeous. He was such a beautiful man. So that's where I kicked off. So as I grew older, as I grew up, these gifts started to dissipate because I got involved with the world. And I kind of, left my father and my mom behind, and I went out into the world at the age of 17 into business. I was dying to get out and to experience life. I could have gone to university. I could have I was a real A student, but I thought, I don't want to do that. I want to get out and live. I want to get out and live. Well, I got out and lived. And I went out into business. That was my calling. Seems strange with having those gifts and then business, but anyway, that's how it started. And then, so for many years, I worked my way up a corporate ladder. Where I got into kind of quite an influential position. I was always in business. I was always a leader. I was always leading teams, or I had some kind of a team beneath me. You know, whatever I was doing. I worked in small, medium, large businesses. But what happened when I was 29? I got my first cosmic slap. What I call a cosmic slap. And actually, this is a key piece. So, my mother died from cancer, and she had a very long run up to it. She had cancer for 4 years, and it took her a long, long time to die. And me, my sister, and my father just watched that process. And I could not understand at all what was going on. It was torture. Nothing could be done for her. And she passed. And at the same time that she passed, my father, this man that I had adored and was the love of my life, actually. My father was the love of my life. And he could not cope with this, with this terrible, terrible loss. My mother was everything to him, quite rightly, but he just could not comprehend what was going on. He was a very gentle and sensitive soul, and he just lost the plot. And when she passed, he could no longer be a father, and he rejected me and my sister at the same time that this was happening to him. And we were never, ever, in this life, we were never, ever reconciled. He passed without any reconciliation. So at that point, I lost my family. And so what I did, I don't want to be too long-winded, but what that did for me was it propelled me into my work in a way that I was broken. I was in desperate pain, and there was no one to help me. My family had disappeared. And I didn't have an extended family. There were no grandparents. They'd all passed. There had been a lot of disease and illness and sickness in my family. So there was my mum and dad, and that was it. And they had gone. And so from that point, I dove into my work in business like that everything depended on it. My entire survival depended on me doing well. And I mention this because apart from it being my own cosmic slap, it was also the propulsion into a way of being in business that is still prevalent today. This fear of survival and this need to be the best and to be successful, it's driven by this fear. And I know it so well because I was that woman, and the distortions that have arisen because of that were the exact in the world now are the same distortions that I experienced in my own being. So that was the first cosmic slap, and it wasn't to be remedied for quite some time. I continued to rise in terms of achievement, in terms of earnings, in terms of level of responsibility, totally unhappy and in pain.
Yeah.
And the final crunch came when just one thing I must say, I adored my team. I loved my team. My team became my family. I would do anything for them. And yes, it was an old hierarchical model, but we, in our little grouping, that little family, we were the greatest collaborators. All the arguments came with my co-directors, the authority figures, of course, I wasn't born to do anything else. So, but as far as the team are concerned, so I was this monster in terms of the way of doing business and the structure, but the actual workings of it with my team were completely collaborative and beautiful. So the next cosmic slap came when I was instructed to fire half my team because of something that was totally out of my hands. Our particular department was running an account, a very large account, and bringing in lots of dollars and pounds. And the chairman of the company had an argument with the owner of the company of this that was running this account, and because of that, they pulled all the orders. It was about 12 million.
Wow.
Not small, not mega, but not small. And because of that pull, that I was asked to fire half my staff. And this was like a knife going in. And I didn't know how to cope with this. I'd never had to do this before. And my heart hadn't totally closed. There was, with the pain of my mom and dad, there was that part of me that, because this team was my family. Anyway, I did what I was instructed to do. And one of the people that I had to fire was a young woman. She was only 16, 17, that I had taken on because nobody else in the company would hire her, because they thought she was a little bit not altogether, the way you should be. I said, I will take her, and she will be part of our team. And I had to fire her. And when I fired her, she came to me, and she put her, as I just fired her, she came to me. Fired is an awful word, isn't it? I'm sorry. Let her go. No, fired. That's what I had to do. That's what I had to do. She came to me. She put her arms around me. She gave me the biggest hug. And she said, thank you so much for seeing me.
Wow.
Thank you so much for letting me work with this great team.
Wow.
And I was a bit like I am now. Still affects me, even after all the work I've done. That still affects me. And that was it. I got up that night. I was working until about 8, 9 o'clock at night. Of course, I was the stressed, burned out, exhausted, confused being that I've spoken about earlier. I got up and I'd emptied my briefcase. I got into my car and I said, I am never, ever coming back to this place. And I never did.
Yeah.
I walked out that day. I walked out and I never went back.
What changed?
I'd had it with this way of this cruelty, this, the way the place was being run was based on profit, competition. This department's down, so we get rid. Why not? There was another answer, and I could see the answer. Because if we all came together, we could support this department. We didn't have to let them go. But we didn't come together. We were in competition with each other. That old horrible way. And that was it for me. That was it. And I said, no more will I ever, ever be part of that.
So where did that cosmic slap then take you from then on?
Oh, Lord. Well, it took, I'll be honest with you, it took me into the bottom of a vodka bottle for a long time. I'm kind of, I'm giving you the full information here.
Yeah.
And I got out of the vodka bottle through the kindness of a doctor who said, look, he said, I know you're having a tough time, because I was this really on top of my losing my parents, this family piece again came in for me, that wounding. And he said, I know you're having a tough time. He said, I will sign you off for as long as you need. Yeah. He said, if you need to be off work for 18 months, I will sign you off. And I was on a contract. I was on a 3-year contract. And, for him to say that, I mean, I knew I must have been pretty down. Yeah. And so I put that to them. I said, look, this is what the doc said. how about just giving me the money and I'll go? And that's what they did. That's what they did. And so that was me out of a situation, but it wasn't me out of the pain. You know, it wasn't me really dealing with the causes. It was me just getting out of the situation with help from the divine or source or whatever you want to say. I then went into business on my own, and that was it. That was where I started my own little consultancy. There was just me, one-man band, and proceeded to live my life, getting into some scrapes in various parts of the world because I'd been in the import-export industry. So I travelled all over the Far East. I travelled to Africa, you name it, I've been there. Big thing in all of this was that I was able to drink in the philosophies of some of these countries, you know, the Buddhism, the Hinduism. Because I was searching, I became a seeker. I became a seeker for what is all this about? What is going on here? Why do people die of terrible illnesses? Why do people treat each other the way they do? You know, I became a seeker, and I just was like a sponge. And for the next 10, 12 years, I was working on my own, and I became very successful again. It seems I was always able to create abundance. That was never an issue for me. I was always successful because I worked hard, I got the hang of things, and I just did what I did. And again, another cosmic slap came at the height of, so this was now me working for myself. And at the height of this, the peak of this business, my highest earning year, my highest turnover, my highest profit. Again, my biggest client pulled the plug. And so I'm thinking, oh my God. And that way, and it went, it all just disappeared just like that. But I can remember thinking about 2 weeks before it all happened, I don't deserve all this. Just that one thought. That one thought. And I remember thinking, I remember, of course now, because now I know how important that is. I don't deserve all this. I had a beautiful home. I was earning lots of money. I had a relationship that was difficult, and it was difficult because of the situation that I hadn't dealt with my pain.
Sure.
But nevertheless, it was, I had all the things externally that people think are important. I had a beautiful big house, I had 3 cars in the drive, I had the lot, And it all went like that because of that one thought. I don't deserve any of this. I don't deserve this. And so that put me on the path of no longer was I just a seeker. Now I was going to do something about the seeking. I was going to find out what really was going on here. And I sold my home. I lost my relationship. Obviously, the work had gone down the drain. And I took 2 years out. I started to meditate, and I started to do yoga. And during those 2 years, I had a very wonderful yoga teacher with whom I had this amazing, what is called a Kundalini experience, where the energy in the body rises. And I had an incredible awakening experience. It's the only way I can describe it, an awakening experience through this, working with this young man. And, this blew my mind, like I mentioned. But this was just the beginning. This was the preparation for what was coming. And what that brought on was my enrollment in with a very prolific healer in the USA who was also, so she was a spiritual teacher, a healer, and she was also an astrophysicist. She, she worked for NASA.
Wow.
And I think you say it like that, or NASA, I don't know, however you say it. And so I trained with her for 6 years. And through that training, the training comprised energy work, energy healing techniques, we would swap and work with each other and be doing all this training. But at the same time, she insisted that we do what she called process work. And that was work that involved going into the inner dimension of the mind. And it was so deep that as I worked through my stuff and combined with the energy work, I started to realize that, oh my goodness, life isn't what I thought it was about. Nothing is the way I thought it was about. My gifts that I'd had when I was little all started to come as I cleared my debris, my psychic debris, and my wounds and my pain and all of the stuff. These gifts started to come back online again. People call them superpowers. I call them just ordinary. This is just the way we are. This is how we're meant to be. This is how we're meant to see. This is how we're meant to hear. This is how we're meant to feel. This is how we're meant to intuit. This is how we're meant to know. All of this started coming back to me. And really what was happening was my consciousness, my awareness was expanding. So I continued with her, like I said, for 6 years. I then went on to do, I was nonstop. I was like, I was, again, like I had been with my father when I was 7. I was like this learner that couldn't stop just taking in this information. And I was being guided all the way through, because what happens with this type of work is that you start to be guided by the part of you that is the higher part of you, shall we say. It's always there, but we just don't know it's there because we've got all this shit going on about how much we're conditioned by, and I hope I'm not going to upset any of your viewers, but how we're conditioned by religion, how we're conditioned by our parents, schools, peers, race, how we're conditioned by politics. Every which way we're conditioned. Everything that we think we know is we have learned, we haven't experienced. There's a difference between learning something, knowing it, and knowing it through your own direct knowing with source. So this was what was happening to me. And of course, then comes the big piece. Can I trust this? Am I going crazy? Because, we could spend the whole night talking about some of the stuff that went on. You wouldn't believe it. And you might call me crazy even now, but I don't care, because I know I'm not.
Yep.
But some of the experiences, which might be worth another show, some of the experiences were just so wild that you think, well, is it real? What's going on? Can I trust this? And it takes time to really reconfigure yourself to how life really is and what is really going on.
In a world of the one thing I've really struggled in my time is to surrender
Oh,
and to
yeah.
trust and surrender. Like, what's your experience of surrender and flow and getting yourself into a state where you can surrender more often, I guess.
Okay. Thank you for asking that question. It is of great importance because the ability to surrender is an absolute necessity to be able to access this super consciousness, these superpowers that, people want to call it all super duper. It's really just, it's really just who we are.
Yeah.
But the ability to let go of all that you thought was real and true because you'd learned it for so long can be a difficult process, and particularly if you go into resistance. Most people will go, when they are asked to surrender, will go into a resistance mode, and that has to be worked with. And this is kind of the stuff I'm working with, these resistances, this resistance to allowing the flow that you spoke of to just flow through you, like it is now with me. It's just flowing through me as I speak and coming through. I am not even thinking what I'm speaking. It's just coming because I'm in flow and I have surrendered. And I can promise you I had to surrender because I had a strong will. Remember the young woman that was so in pain at the beginning of this story? She got through life by will. She pushed, she hustled. She was like, really in her own willpower. But that is not the power that is sustainable.
Yeah.
We burn out because it's not real. When we surrender and allow and just allow the energy to move us as it will, it never is not there, and it will never leave us. This is the power that runs the universe. Not just you and me. We're insignificant in comparison to the planets and the sun and the moon and the stars. The same power moves through us.
I sit in between the sense of the mindset of make it happen versus the mindset of what will be, and I the what will be is never a comfortable, and where is it a spectrum? Is it as binary as that? And is there a middle ground?
Well, another great question. Gosh, Ryan, I know why I came here. You ask great questions. The make it happen piece, that's a very, very interesting piece. And it brings me to speak about, we have two types of energy, as human beings. We have the feminine energy, let's say, because I'm feminine, I'm going to talk about the feminine energy. So this is nothing to do with gender now. It's not to do with gender. Yep. I happen to be in a woman's body. You happen to be in a man's body.
I think I lead with feminine energy. I think I know this.
Yeah. So these energies are nothing to do with gender.
Yeah.
So the energies of the feminine are what you spoke of: the allowing, the surrender, the flow, the nurturing, the gentleness, the embracing. This holding energy, which is actually this is the energy of love. To be honest, because love is a frequency. And when you bring that frequency into anything, this is what the universe is made of. This is what you and I are made of. But then there are the other energies, and they're actually attributes and qualities that are more masculine, which and so that feminine energy is about receiving and allowing. And how anything is created, though, is through two energies, feminine and the masculine energies, which are vision, clarity, determination, commitment, all of the. So the making it happen is, there's a difference between taking action and making something happen. So making something happen is coming from a push of will. Taking action, on the other hand, is listening in to your guidance, which has been given through flow and surrender. Does this make sense? So we get the guidance, and then we take action. We don't push. So the making it happen is the push of the will, of our little will. It's not the allowance of the higher will that is actually operating the whole show. Does that make sense?
I love that.
And those two energies come together. There are more to them that I can't remember, but that's the gist of the two energies coming together, the masculine and the feminine energies within each being, within each woman, within each man. And when you bring those two fully together, you get creation. You get positive creation. It's man and woman come together to create a child. These attributes and qualities come together to create and manifest our reality. Does this make sense?
Yep, with you.
So you need the two. You need the surrender and the flow and the receiving energy, and the clarity and the vision and the determination and commitment of the masculine energy and the taking action. One is about being, and one is about doing. That's a really great. It's a doobie-doo. That's what my teacher at school used to say. She used to call, Barbara Brennan used to call it doobie-doobie-doobie. It's the doobie-doo. It's the do. It's the be and the do. And at the physical plane level, this is how we operate. And when those are in perfect balance, we fly. Problem is, most of the time, there are distortions on both sides of that. And those distortions are created by this whole, this mindset word that everybody uses nowadays. But really, it's the limiting beliefs. It's and the beliefs, like I've said, are caused by conditioning. I know I'm preaching to the choir here.
Sure.
You know this, you've done your training. But the thing is, they're actually built into our DNA. This is kind of might be a stretch for you, and this is why I have done this research into the science, because I'm an intuitive empath. But what does that mean to a business person? It might mean a lot to some, but to general, she's off her head. So I wanted to bring in the fact that science is now evidencing what the ancient wisdom has been teaching us. And I speak of ancient wisdom. I'm not speaking about religion here. I'm speaking about ancient wisdom. This is wisdom that has been brought through, this knowledge that has been brought through directly. It's not a learned knowledge. It's not learning anything from any book. This is an experiential knowledge through the great masters. So you have them on the one hand, but you have science now. Really, it's such a great time to be alive. Because science is now evidencing all of this. And So what we think of as superpowers is evidenced by science. We know that thought creates our reality. There's been experiments to show that. And if you don't know what they are, just read. You can read my book. I encourage your viewers to read my book before they dismiss me as a nutcase, because it took me years to research all of this, from quantum physics to molecular biology to epigenetics to DNA experiments that the Russians have done that have shown that coherent light and sound changes the DNA. I mean, for heaven's sake, what do you think healers have been doing all the way through? But never before could they articulate it, because most of them are, like myself, intuitive empaths and getting, getting information from what we call the quantum potential field, which we now know is the quantum potential field. But before, when I kicked off in 1950, I didn't know. Of course, Albert Einstein knew long before I came across the information. But when you're bringing stuff in intuitively, you don't really care. You just do what you just know what you know.
So you talked about your book. Tell us a little bit about the book and how can people reach out? How can people connect? How can people find more about you and your work?
I have a website. It's actually not a very good website. I've learned just recently that I've got it. There's so much going on in terms of how to market yourself and Anyway, it seems I've got a lot wrong, but nevertheless, it tells it not in the right order and not in the right way, but nevertheless, it will tell you all about me. My website is amelchizedek.love. There's that love, and that is why I'm here, because I'm leading with love, and I know that you are leading with love. So that's my website, www.amelchizedek, AMelchizedek.love. That's the website. The book's on there. My email address is Athena, Athena, at Melchizedek, AMelchizedek.love, and you can get me that way.
Who should reach out? Who should connect with you?
Oh, wow. All the change makers, all the people that know they're here to do something absolutely wonderful, but are scared to death and are confused and don't know what they're business people, obviously. My pathway has been through the business world, and it still is. I've just given you a few little, snippets of that life in the business world, but I'm here to bring change into that world through my being, and to help people who are on the same path as me. And many young people are in this situation where they don't know quite how to do, what to do. Many young entrepreneurs, the young entrepreneurs know that they're going after the money, and there are a lot of successful entrepreneurs. But I'm concerned with changing our whole business world through bringing consciousness, this awareness of who we truly are, into the way we do business.
Love that.
So anybody who's in business who's got this because I had this feeling always. When I sat in the middle of my gorgeous big house with my 3 cars in the drive and all my money, I would sit and be miserable because I wasn't doing what I knew I should be doing. And I didn't know what it is. I didn't know what it was that I should be doing at that stage. I just had this gnawing inside me that would never let me rest. And, I needed a few good cosmic slaps before I realized that I can actually talk to my father. I worked with my father for 10 years after he passed.
Wow. There's all sorts of questions I want to ask you about that, but we'll save that for another day.
But
Wow.
this is, but the, yeah, this is the universe that we live in, and we can have access to all of this to bring great prosperity, abundance, sustainability to our own lives, to the world. We don't have to destroy this beautiful planet,
Yeah, for sure.
and we can
My
be great.
100%. My ethos is about creating a world that is always better than yesterday. I'm just curious to know what that phrase "always better than yesterday" means to you.
It touched me so much, Ryan. First of all, I want to say that it really touched me in my deepest heart. What it means to me is we have a choice. We can make every day always better than the last by our very choice. We don't have to live in the past, which is what a lot of people do. We can, no matter how much we think we've been hurt, it is actually an illusion. And I can vouch for that because I am vouching for it. I am not in pain.
Mm-hmm.
And love lives on, and life lives on. Life never dies, it just changes energy. So we just changes form. My mom and dad didn't die, they just changed form. I know because I'm in touch with them. And we have a choice how we want to build our lives, want to build our world, want to build our businesses. It's up to us. So I love what you're doing. I love every minute of being with you. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to take the time just to say thank you for taking your time out this evening and spending it with me. And I just knew there was a depth to you when I first met you, and it didn't take long before I looked at your Facebook profile to see all the things that you. Wow, this is going to be an epic conversation, and I could talk to you all evening, probably all weekend, and we probably still wouldn't scratch the surface. And
Thank you.
I look forward to continuing our relationship and getting to know each other even better. And
Me too.
just like to say that if any watcher and listener that has been inspired by Athena today, first and foremost, just take action. Take action on something that you've heard this evening. And see what difference that makes in your own life. And if there's that one person in your network or your community that needs to hear what Athena has either shared today or is putting out, then please do make sure you share that with that one person. And for now, Athena, I'd just be honoured if you could just leave us with a final thought from your good self.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Just lead with love because you are it. You are it.
Love that. I hope you have an amazing week, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thank you. You
Much
too,
love.
Brian. Thank you. Much love to you. Blessings.